What the hell?
Yeah, Homer led the league in tackles with 85. The deep ball for Darius Prince, and Philadelphia's on the board first.
On the draw, this is Bryson Allen. And Allen weaving his way all the way down to the 22.
10-yard line, 5. Mayfield, dancing all around. Throwing as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
And you want to be a wide receiver. You're going to have to take a little bit of a hit like that as Brown got him in that shoulder, but watch. Those are teeth.
Do we have a dentist on staff here?
All right, we are back with another episode of Around the Indoor Football World. Sorry about that start there. A little weird. StreamYard said that we record too often. That can't possibly be true. We hardly ever put out content for you guys. So with that process, we're going to jump into another episode. We got a lot of great subjects to talk about today with a lot of news in the indoor football world, depending on which league you're talking about. And we'll have a guest coming on here shortly to tell us a little bit more about the Arena League, which I really have a lot left to learn. And actually, here he is. So we'll just go ahead and start with the Arena League today. But before we get to that, how you guys doing today? We'll start with Tucson.
I'm doing great, Sam, Krish. Good to see you guys again. Excited to be back on Around the Indoor Football World. I love talking about this stuff.
Absolutely, same here. And it's kind of cool that we get to go into the TAL today. I've been watching it. I really don't have a great grasp on everything that's going on with it yet, so a lot left to learn. So I'm excited to learn more about that. Krish, how are you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good, excited for this big Saturday of indoor football. I love the TAL. I'm a huge fan of my Kansas City Goats. So, we got a big game today against the who do we play today? Oh, we play Ozarks today. So I'm excited for that.
Definitely. So Ozark Launchers, for anybody watching, their GM came on before the season, told us a little bit about the TL. I want to say that was about 4 months ago, was before the season kicked off. So some of the information was not quite what's set in stone yet, but definitely check that out. But without further ado, we are going to be joined by Kaleb Barker, formerly of the Green Bay Blizzard, but now with the Duluth Harbor Monsters. How are you doing today, Mr. Barker?
I'm doing great, bro. I think we're all on the same time, Eastern time. So just got up, got a little quick workout in, hopped on here with y'all. So
definitely appreciate that, and appreciate that you came on despite the fact that I did not get back to you last night when you asked me if we were still doing this. I'm pretty bad about doing that the night before. I should definitely work on that. But this is a show that we do every weekend. So I in my mind, it's happening no matter what.
right.
So I guess I should have gotten back to you a little bit sooner, but we appreciate you coming on, man. I know obviously you and I talked a lot this offseason, so I know that you kind of sought out all options before ending up in the TAL. But I'm curious, what really drew you to Duluth and the Harbor Monsters? And so far, what's your experience been like?
Thankfully, I was sitting on the couch technically at home, looking for an opportunity to play some football again. And Coach Tom, he reached out to me on Facebook, and actually, he had my number, and I was surprised how he got my number. It was through a guy named Matt Wells, and I guess he connected me with him. And he's like, "Hey, you want to come to camp and come play some football?" I said, "Absolutely." And then I think 2 days later, I left and I practiced with the team for a day or two. Got to know the guys, and then we ended up traveling down to KC, Kansas City, played them. It was actually a more exciting game than I really thought, because I didn't know what was going to happen. It's 6-man, so things are a lot different than 8-man, 11-man. The rules are different. I think the throw off is kind of a cool thing during the kickoff. Kind of reminds me of like I don't know if you guys played NFL street football, like just like a whole bunch of like entertainment going on. It's fast paced. Just you're going to score back and forth, back and forth. The fan base is actually bigger than I thought too. I think at our last game we had over like 3,000 people there for the home games. We sold out, so it's the TAL is definitely growing, and it's definitely I think it's catching some eyes slowly. So I'm definitely excited for like what's to come, like for the next years to come.
Definitely seems like it's trending the right direction. Dukan, do you have any questions for Kaya?
Not really. I mean, I like just seeing the product and jumping in every once in a while and seeing you guys play. I think it's an interesting approach to the game. I think it's actually wise, financially speaking, as well. And you guys are doing great. I mean, I've watched a little bit of Duluth, and you guys are playing some good football. I hope that you can give the Kansas City Goats a run for their money. They're kind of sitting at the top right now. But you're gonna get them, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. No, I really appreciate it. It's good to hear a little bit about it. Thank you.
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, this is a very interesting league, and like you touched on it just briefly, it's a 6-man football league. So one thing that I was not aware of, and I just found this out this week, I'm not sure how I missed this while watching the games, but every player is technically an eligible receiver. Is that correct?
Yes, even the center. Like my first practice with them, I didn't know that, and like I'm dropping back in my hook the curl coverage. I'm not even worried. Like I'm not worried about the center. Like I didn't know the center could release, and he just keeps releasing. He's catching this ball like a little five, just running like literally like 5 yards straight ahead, just catching the ball. I'm like, why does he keep doing that? And then he's like, oh, the center's allowed to release. I'm like, oh, I really didn't know that, but. Most teams put a tight end there, realistically, and they let him snap the ball and then let him do his thing. But so it's kind of like you're still getting your man-to-man like coverage, like a linebacker versus a tight end, so you're still getting good work.
Gotcha. And for those not watching, how does rushing the passer work from a defensive perspective?
So we blitz a lot in the league. Like I think every team blitzes. But you could blitz 1, you could blitz 2. I think you could blitz 3 to max. You can just go one guy, one defensive end, and then drop back the rest of the five guys. But you kind of can mix it up. You send corner blitzes, safety blitzes. Like it's still like you can freestyle it if you want to. But the max, you could blitz only 3 guys. The max.
Interesting. Okay, so technically, it's kind of like a gamble a little bit to send out your center on a route there, because at some point you're leaving your quarterback unprotected.
Yes, it's crazy because there'll be like 2 or 3 guys like trying to chase down your quarterback, and then he's just like praying to find somebody down the field. Like, but I like the TL so much because it helps you play in space. There's only six guys on the field, so like it's kind of like you're one-on-one with you're man-on-man with anyone that's in front of you. So it's you're kind of getting like the skill. Your skill was going to improve once you go outside, like to outside football, eventually.
Absolutely. For anybody who's looking at these stats that I'm pulling up right now, a lot of very recognizable names if you've been watching the show over the past couple seasons. A guy like Vincent Espinoza, Josh Holland, Javonte Johnson, Rakeem Cato. You look down at the running backs. You got Matt Rush. I believe he was with, and I'm blanking off the top of my head, but he was with one of the teams as well. James Harden. You just go down this list and everybody, you see a ton of names you recognize. Ryan Martinez, Boo Smith, Mo Strong, Kendrick Payne. It's pretty awesome to see. It's almost like this league was built out of a lot of arena football, indoor football veterans, which I think is a great move on their part as well. So talk to me a little bit about the adaptation to go from 8-man football to 6-man football. I mean, how did your responsibilities as a linebacker change based on that?
I would say it's like you're out, like as a linebacker, you definitely got to read your keys a lot more, and you're on your own a lot because most of the all the DBs are in coverage. So the middle of the field is pretty much yours. Like you got to be able to tackle in space, and be able to cover, and then like most teams, like once the quarterback rolls out, they like to send the linebacker down to like force. So pretty much giving him some pressure to like they don't want him to have as much time in the pocket because if he's just back there relaxing, he has you feel me? It's going to be a long day for your DBs. So I think like going back to the skill work with everything, like it really helps you like react faster. Um,
Sure.
they can still hand the ball off. Like a lot of teams do pass the ball, but they technically can still hand the ball off. So it's like kind of like really like one on one. Like I say, they give a dive. Like it's just you and the running back because there's no lineman, offensive lineman like that. Like you could put down three guys if you wanted to, but most guys like
Gotcha. That
you
would
see
be an
on you see
interesting offensive lineup
the
if you look at
quarterback.
that.
Yeah,
Hmm. Man, like I said, this league is so interesting. It's so unique. I mean, it brings a different brand of football than anything else that we've ever seen at the professional level before. How are the amenities for players? I mean, are they taking good care of you guys out there in Duluth?
oh yeah, we get spoiled out here. So it's
Awesome.
kind
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
yeah, kind of reminds me. We got spoiled in Green Bay as well. Like kind of reminds me of the same thing, like the treatment in the IFL. So I think most of the guys are happy where we're at. We get a treatment. We have a facility for treatment. We got two practice facilities. Uh, Housing's great. We get fed well all over the city. Beautiful city too. It's probably like I think 2 hours from Canada. There's a huge ocean. I honestly I never been to Minnesota. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But it's a cool atmosphere. Like it was cold. It was so cold when I first got there. It was probably like 50 degrees, but it ended up warming up because I live in Charlotte. Like and Charlotte is blazing hot. So it took me like a week or two to adjust, but
Sure.
pretty cool.
I'm actually not far from Charlotte now. I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina at the moment, so that's kind of funny.
Cool.
Krish, if you're still with us, man, do you have any questions for Kyer?
Yeah, Kyrie, I was going to ask you, coming up, you have a head coach, Antonio O'Neill from Miami. Kind of talk to me about what enthusiasm he brings and the new culture he's trying to build down there in Duluth.
So Coach Tone, I think he has. I believe Coach Tone has the potential to coach at a higher level. He's very. His IQ is very high. He opens up. He listens to his players. Like if his players feel like there's an adjustment that we can make on the field, he's going to hear you out and he's going to give it a try. Like that. That's what I like. A lot of coaches are very stubborn and they see things their way. He doesn't do that at all. I think. And I've been like the adjustments we've been making for each team. And sometimes we'd be like, I don't know, coach, that's gonna work. He'd be like, just trust me. And then we go out there, we execute, and it's like, oh, like we should trust him some more. But I think he's headed in the right direction, especially with Duluth, um, and for his future in the coaching industry.
It's excellent.
Absolutely.
I
Always
got a
glad to hear
question
that
for
you're
you, Kyle.
I'm sorry.
I just had a quick question for you. Do you find that in that game where the middle of the field is wide open, that coaches really value speed in a linebacker versus anything else?
I think that's in your best favor to have some speed right there. I haven't seen a big backer yet in the league. Like I know the AFL, they be having their linebackers be huge. Like you don't see that, and
In the
and
TAL.
yeah, the TL you got to have some athleticism because you got to get back in coverage too. And I think
Gotcha.
that helps advertise me because I'm I'm really known as a good tackler, but I'm also very good in coverage. So this is like showing like my coverage skills now because it's you have opportunities to get some interceptions in the league. I'll say.
I was going to say,
It sounds
if you look
like
at the leaderboard,
sorry.
the leaderboard is currently led by a player who's got 6 interceptions in 4 games. So definitely impressive to see that. I like that Ducon just asked about the speed aspect, because obviously that's very important in this style of play. But I was curious, you talked about the fact that they don't have a whole lot of bigger linebackers. Are there any teams in the league running true defensive linemen, or is it a situation where everybody's more or less a linebacker or a defensive back and prepared to drop into coverage?
We have a few teams. Well, we got one guy on our team. He's a true defensive lineman. But I've saw some guys. They have some D linemen. I think it depends on the situation, like on the kind of team you're playing against. If that D lineman, he got to be a dog. Like in this league, like he has to be able to change direction. He absolutely, because he's really pretty much like one-on-one on a quarterback as well, because the tight end is the center. The tight end's leaving automatically, like every time.
Yeah.
So it's like if he can't get to the quarterback, probably not gonna be any use. So that's why like most teams like to blitz an extra guy to help him out.
That makes sense. And I would imagine more often than not, these teams are employing mobile quarterbacks that can kind of escape the pocket, run away from these guys a little bit.
Certainly.
I've seen some crazy stuff in the league. I've seen the center snap the ball to the quarterback, then the quarterback pitch it back to the running back, and he's like another 10 yards back, and he's just like back there, like relaxing, running around. So I think that's the fun. It feels like it's like tag football, but it doesn't catch himself. So
Gotcha.
it definitely teaches you how to run to the football.
So a little bit of a backyard element to it, so to speak.
Yes.
I was just my former teammate. He actually plays for the KC Goats right now. We played together at Carson Newman University. I was telling him, man, this is different football. He plays 8-man. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him. Daquan Dudley, Houdini.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Great player.
Yeah, he just signed with the KC Goats last week.
Really? He was with Omaha, right? Just won a championship?
Yeah, they just won a championship,
yeah. I was just editing some footage of him yesterday.
Okay.
I was going to say, he's been around the block this season. I think he was with Philadelphia Soul at first. And then, obviously that situation unfolded very poorly. And he ended up in Omaha, great way to rebound, ends up, playing really well, winning a championship. So great way to, find his footing this season. I know he's had some pretty decent seasons in the past, but this year looked like it was starting rough for him and finished up solid. So glad to see that for him. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I'm sure Dudley's not your only former teammate in these leagues. Where are some of your other guys that are out there playing?
I've seen a lot of my former teammates are in the IFL and the AFL. The TAL, like people, like most of my former teammates, they kind of discovered the TL through me. Like once I started like posting, like I was with this team, and then they were DMing me, asking me questions like, "What's this?" Like, and then they started doing the research, and then they started watching the games. Like, I guess they like it. Like so, and I have some guys like that's actually reached out to me, like trying to get on some teams, and there's some great players. So I think the next year, like, well, we still got a season to finish, but really next year is the year like it's going to like really skyrocket a little bit more. Like this is the first year. This is just like a trial run to see how it looks, and so far it's been quite a success. Like we haven't had any complications with anything. Like a lot of new leagues struggle like trying to start, like they shut down, but this is actually going a lot smoother than we thought. And I've been in some situations like where, like with the Major League Football, I was a part of that, and I seen how that went downhill. So it's great to actually give this opportunity to some football players as well, because there's some guys in the league like that got some talent as well.
Yeah, and that was my next question, Sam, for Mr. Bynum is that like you said, this thing started out pretty good, and it's catching a lot of attention. They've already expanded 2 teams to start next year. and a lot more players are becoming intrigued by it and realizing, hey, you know what, there's a pretty good business model here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got 15-man rosters.
Correct.
Most of pretty much everybody's right there in a Midwest corridor, so to speak. And they've just done things in a way that and being 6-on-6, it just doesn't cost a ton of money. A lot of these new leagues that start out, they have these really lofty goals. They really want to do a lot, and they'll calculate their money to get through a season, and then there just ends up being all these phantom expenses that they never saw coming. Whereas so far in the TAL, it's done in a way that it's minimal, but it's still highly entertaining. You talked about having over 3,000 fans at your last home game there. What do you think? Let's just say 5 years from now, is the TAL going to be a premier league in arena football?
That's a great question. 5 years from now, they might try to expand. They might try to go IFL maybe, or somewhere in that direction. I think they might try to go 8-man. I'm not
Interesting.
Sure what Mr. Tim Brown, I'm not sure the direction he would want to go. I don't know if he wants to stay 6-man or try to like bring his teams into another league. But I think he could definitely do his own thing though, like with his TL. Like he can add some teams, but it's just gonna take time. Like just getting different teams in different cities. But so far, like I like it. Like it brings a different swag to the game.
Yeah,
I agree, and that was a great point by you, Ducon. I think this is much more financially stable. I mean, overall, I mean, you talk about the smaller rosters right there. You're paying, between 6 and 9 players less per team. Then, with them all being regionally located, the travel's a lot cheaper, a lot easier to sustain for the owners. So I really like that this league has put a lot of thought into the logistics of it. And really, really solidified the foundation of the league before they've gone out and tried to, put out these lofty goals like you spoke about. We have all watched what has happened with the Arena Football League this year as they've tried to expand too quickly, too fast, and ended up having to contract half their teams by the end of the season, canceling games, all this other stuff that never should have happened had they planned accordingly. And now here we are watching the TAL do exactly what you should as a startup league. You start small, you start conservative, and then you build. And I like the fact that they're already talking about 2025 expansion, because then you have a full year for these teams to build up their fan bases before they launch and build up their sponsorship base and all of that. So I think that's another great decision by the TAL. And honestly, it's kind of funny. When they originally came about, I wasn't sure what to think about them. To be quite honest, I kind of put it on the back burner. I wasn't really doing a lot of research on the league. I had an overall idea what was coming. I just didn't know what to think about it. You always hear about these new leagues, like you spoke about the MLFB. They come and they go, right? So when it's a new league and you haven't really seen those people deal with the ins and outs of launching a football league before, you take it with a grain of salt. You just don't know. So with that in mind, I mean, was it difficult for you ultimately to decide to jump into the TAL, knowing that your experience with MLFB, having been in a new league before?
Yeah, it was so hard to commit. I was telling Coach Tony, I was like, man, like, I don't want no funny stuff going on. I had to just be straight up with him. I was like, I don't want any funny stuff going on. Like, because if I went through one more thing, like with a football cancel, I probably would have lost my mind. Like, I was like, okay, like, but thankfully, like, just praying over it and taking my time, thinking over it overnight and night, and everything worked out. So here we are now. I'm happy with my decision. I like to take my time before. I'm not really an impulsive guy, like when it comes to decision making. Yeah. It's definitely a life changing opportunity, but I think I made the great decision this time.
Definitely. And I'm glad to see it working out for you. I mean, obviously, the MLFB situation was an ugly one for a lot of players, and it really derailed a lot of careers. And it's nice to see you and several other guys that were there before start to kind of catch your footing now. Akil Greer with Wichita is another guy who is same situation. D'Angelo Fulford He's been bouncing around as well. He was with Arkansas as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it's cool to see these guys kind of start getting their career back on track after such a rough situation back in 2022. But, we'll see if the MLFB ever makes it. Apparently, they are still launching. I talked to Mike McCarthy at the Pro Level Showcase, and he says that they're still trying. So we'll see. But this is an indoor show, not an outdoor show, so we won't get too much into that topic today. I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's been fun learning about the TAL. Is there anything that you want to tell the fans that you really think sticks out about this league that they should come and watch for that specific reason?
It's the scoring. Like, I think I've played in the IFL, and the scoring is, I think, a little bit faster than the IFL. So you're not going to really be too bored. Like, you're going to see a lot of touchdowns. You're going to see turnovers. Man, I think it's entertaining. Like, it's only, like I said, it's only 6 guys on the field, so somebody out there is going to get exposed. Like, it's like you're going to see some plays made. I would say, like, IFL is a little bit more slow paced, slow played. Like, just like with the coaching and then execution. Like, the TAL is more like just go. Like you might see receivers just go on the go route, and the quarterback just throws it up. He goes and jumps over the guy, or a safety might come pick it off. Like, it's like there's a lot of chances like took in the TAL, and that's what I like about it too. They give guys opportunities to make plays. So, but overall, I think the fan base has been awesome lately. Like, even like at the away games, like everyone's been engaged, the fans been engaged, so it's cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, obviously, that's a big factor in these leagues' success, as well as entertaining the fans. I mean, if you can keep them entertained, you can keep them coming to games, you're probably in good shape. So, Ducon, any final questions before we let Kyer get out of here?
Not questions, more of a statement. I think that Kyer really nailed it on the head. You won't get bored watching these games. And to illustrate that point, back in 2019, the Arizona Rattlers, in their 26th year, broke their franchise record for most points. They scored 91 points against the San Diego Strike Force. The Kansas City Goats did it in their 3rd game. So this is this league is a point machine. I would not be surprised if you get a really good team, if they eclipse 100 at some point. Even this year, I would not be surprised by that. So I think it's set up that way. But the other statement that I was going to make is, somebody like Kyer in his position, the more I think about the position that you play, the more I think you got to have your head on a swivel. You're watching the quarterback, you're watching the center, you're watching each shoulder of guys crossing over the middle, and you just really have got to be able to have eyes everywhere in your head. And you've got to be able to make really quick decisions. It's not just a linebacker position. It's kind of like a strong safety. You got to be good in coverage, got to be good in the open field. And so after talking to you, I just realized, man, that's a tough position to play. I'm glad that Duluth has you on the team.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like kind of like playing linebacker in this league, like how you said, you got to be more versatile. Like, you might have to have some defense and skills, just because you may pass rush, or you got to have, of course, your linebacker skills, and then the back end with the safety skills, because you got to see everything. Like, literally, you must keep your eyes back and forth on a swivel, because you never know what's coming your way or coming across from the opposite side of the field. So it definitely, like, it helped, because I haven't played in over a year since I've been in Green Bay. So it, like, even my first game with KC, like, it knocked rust off like instantly. Like, it felt great. Like, I'm back, like, for sure. So,
Kyer, have you ever gotten dizzy trying to look every direction on a play?
I feel like I have. Honestly, I'm like, I gotta take a break. I'll be like, all right, once we get a turnover or something, I'm like, okay, thankfully we're off the field. Like getting off the field as a defender is probably the best thing ever. Like you get a stop or you get a turnover, and you're like, oh, finally we're off the field. We can just relax, cheer the offense on. So of course we like being on the field too, but not for don't want for too long on defense.
Well, thank you, Kyer.
Thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. And like I said, we're very intrigued by the TAL, and definitely will keep watching because it's very entertaining. So if you're watching and you're a fan of indoor football, and you have not caught any of these TAL games yet, I strongly recommend it. Like I said, very interesting football to watch, constant action. So definitely a great league. Kyer, thank you so much, man, for taking the time out. Really appreciate you giving us a half an hour of your morning this morning. And, I hope you have a great rest of your season, great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you in the championship game coming up soon.
Hey, definitely you'll see us there. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're welcome back here anytime. You know that.
For sure.
Definitely. Have a great rest of your afternoon, sir, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Thank you to our partners at Huddle Sports Network for broadcasting this show and a couple other our other shows on Roku, as well as Amazon Fire and Android TV as well. So if you want to catch this on TV, go check us out on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Android TV at the Huddle Network. So thank you to those guys for making that all possible. That's always been a goal of mine, and here we are on TV. So always cool to see that. We got some more topics to talk about, and we're going to get into the AIF now. Lots has been happening in the AIF over the past couple of weeks, and there's a lot to talk about. So, we're just going to dive right into it. The first big news was, of course, that the Cedar Rapids River Kings have been released from the league to pursue other opportunities. So let's go ahead and dive right into that. Obviously, with everything that's gone on with the AIF and Cedar Rapids, I don't necessarily know that this was a surprise. But at the same time, what does the future hold for the River Kings? We'll go to Tucson first.
Yeah, that's a really hard one to say. The short answer, Sam, is I don't know what the future holds for them. It doesn't look good right now. It's hard to say if there is a future for the Cedar Rapids River Kings. Can they rebound from it? Yes, but right now I just don't think that they've established a good enough rapport and relationship in the indoor football world to attract any league right now. There would have to be some internal structure adjustments to the entire organization in order for them to be, I guess, a target for any leagues right now. That's my answer.
That's definitely fair. I wanted to commend them on the fact that they've been able to find regular opponents, despite the fact that they are an independent team currently. They have been playing a lot of games. They played against the AFL twice. I think they played against the NAL a couple times. And if I'm not mistaken, they played against an AAL2 opponent. That's what I thought. Okay. So yeah, they've played a bunch of different teams, and they seem to to be making a concerted effort to keep the franchise going. And I would love to see them, kind of get back on their feet and find success. I know that we reported on some bad things with their organization here, but we don't want them to have, we don't want them to fail. We don't want them to fold. What we want is for the team to succeed and treat their players properly. So I think a lot of the stuff that we reported on has been cleared up. So I hope that they do find success, find a league that they can play in, and find a way for them to keep going. But Krish, I wanted to get your 2 cents on this. What are your thoughts on Cedar Rapids being released by the AIF?
Well, Anthony Bartley, one of their majority owners, he started his own team called the Cedar Rapids Power. So this is going to become a battle where it's going to be rights, right? Who has the rights to what? If they can get the arena lease for the Power, if the River King can get the arena lease. And so I'm interested to see how this plays out. Obviously, right, we knew there was issues in Cedar Rapids. I said that, months ago. Obviously it's sad to see them get thrown out of the league, but last game they played not even wearing their own jerseys. They wore the Iowa Rampage jerseys. So, that right there should, give you a red flag. Tonight, Darren Clark will not be the head coach. It's kind of funny to see, that he's not there anymore, considering how much he invested into the program. And Drake Roach, who's their owner and vice president, he's going to be serving as head coach tonight. They're playing Up One Athletic Showcase, which is like Samuel Spencer's travel team. That's their final regular season game tonight at the Allegiant Powerhouse. So, excited to see that. Obviously, Cedar Rapids tonight will be made up of a bunch of guys who are semi-pro guys who have never played pro football. So I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I encourage everyone to see the link to stream the game. I really hope Up One wins because they have a really good chance to win considering, the team that Cedar Rapids put together. But I think, it comes back to holding owners accountable, right? And understanding, like, when you invest in a team, you got to go all in. You can't go 1 foot in, 1 foot out, pick and choose. And then when people get mad at you on social media, you go after them, right? Like, you got to, stay even keel, and you got to handle problems as they come up. Otherwise, the problems just keep building up. And then, you get an end result like this. So I think Cedar Rapids, the River Kings, and, the owners, other team, the Corvallis Chaos, I don't see them playing in any legitimate professional league. The only league I see them going into is the AL2, or maybe they go into Tyrone Washington's new, SFA, the Southern Football Alliance. Who knows? But those are really the only 2 spots I see them going into. But, I think I wish them the best luck. I hope they can get their, feet off the ground. But I'm excited. I'm really excited for the Cedar Rapids Power, and Anthony Bartley. I love Anthony Bartley, and I'm excited to see what product he puts on the field. So, yeah.
Tyrone Washington's launching a football league?
Yes.
So, okay. A little bit of news there on around the indoor football world. I was not aware of that. That guy is constantly working to grow the league or grow the sport, I guess you could say, not the league. It just amazing. Another team that has bounced around and played a million different leagues, it seems like, this year. So Dallas Falcons, I guess they're going away now, but they've
they're coming back.
A lot of
he changed his mind, so he switched it to the Texas Wolves. And then he had to change his heart one day. So the Dallas Falcons are back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Texas Wolves, Dallas Falcons, whatever. I mean, as long as Tyrone's involved, I'll probably support it. I think he's a great guy, and I really want to see him find success as well. And we need owners like him that are willing to take chances sometimes to, help the other leagues that are struggling, like the AFL, for instance, that needed a team to step in for some games. That was huge for them. I think the Dallas Falcons have played a couple other teams, a couple other leagues across the way as well. So Cedar Rapids, Dallas Falcons, a couple other teams around that have kind of filled in some of these gaps on the schedules, which is always nice to see. The next piece of information that came out, and it's been like day after day, we've gotten information from the AIF. So it's really interesting what they're building up to now. But basically, the AIF commissioner has chosen to step down. John Morris was the previous commissioner. He is going to step down from his role and move on with his life. I'm kind of curious what has caused this, but I have an idea, obviously. So I'm curious to ask you guys, I mean, are you surprised to see the change at commissioner for the AIF? Chris, you're shaking your head. Why do you say that?
Obviously we kind of know like there's a lot of movement to be had with these leagues. I can see teams jumping from different leagues, and I think, when you kind of get into this, right, like again, when you get into a league, a first year startup, which is what the AI, it's not a first year startup, it's a first year relaunch. But when you look at it like that, there's a lot of trouble, there's a lot of problems. They had the Mississippi situation, they had the Cedar Rapids situation, they had the Albany situation. So there's a lot of stuff that has gone on year one for this league, right? So I think, and then they had the Amarillo situation towards the end. So I think it can be too much, for one person to handle, right? And so I'm not really surprised. If teams are making decisions to want to go to other leagues, like I mentioned before, Corpus Christi ownership on Facebook talking about joining the NAL or teasing at joining the NAL or showing interest per se. Columbus did the same thing, a couple weeks ago. So if that is the case, I don't know if they are or they're not, but if they are, it kind of brings up the point where, what is the AIF, right? What does the AIF become? So, it's interesting to see. I know they were really trying to get Wheeling, and when Wheeling joined the NAL, it's kind of like, okay, let's see what we can do here. But it's going to be really interesting to see what the end result is for the AIF, and if they become a conference or they still stay as a league.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Dukan, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think a lot of the same way that Krish does on this, honestly. I don't think the AIF is going away necessarily. You don't drop news like this if you're planning on going away, because they've consistently been dropping news. So whatever it is that they're doing, I think they're planning something big. And I suspect, I don't know this, but I suspect with Johnny Morris stepping down as commissioner, it's because the AIF is bringing in somebody that either Johnny Morris doesn't get along with, or they don't get along with Johnny Morris and they just refuse to work together. As some of your internal indoor football politics that you sometimes run into. Or he just was so exhausted with how the last season went that he's just like, I've had enough, I'm done. And we see that sometimes. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Krish knows more about this. I think with the removal of the River Kings and the Beaumont Renegades, I think that leaves us with Corpus, Columbus, Harrisburg, and Amarillo, if Amarillo is still around. And if you can correct me on that, Krish, I'm not sure, but whatever they're doing with their remaining teams, I think they're planning something big, and I think within the month we're really going to find out everything they're planning.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some speculation that we've been talking about for a couple weeks here that we have a good idea what's coming. We have been speculating on it for a while, but ultimately I think that this is all building up to an eventual absorption into the NAL. I think a big reason why you remove a team like Cedar Rapids is because of the fact that they've got some issues with other owners in the other league, the NAL. And so you kind of quell some of those problems right there by getting rid of the Cedar Rapids River Kings and maybe bringing in the Cedar Rapids Power instead. I'm not really sure what happens there, but it's going to be an interesting situation. Dukan, you touched on it just a moment ago. Here's the press release regarding Beaumont. Beaumont's kind of an interesting situation. They were an expansion team. They're slated to start in 2025, but they ultimately decided that they want to pursue other opportunities, even though they had previously said they'd be in the AIF. So I'm curious, this particular situation strikes me as somewhat odd. I know that they looked into the NAL last season. I would imagine that would be the move this year again, considering this announcement. Dukan, what are your thoughts on this? Did it surprise you that Beaumont was announced as taking other opportunities?
Yeah, in a way it did. I thought that they for sure were committed to the AIF, and the AIF was committed to them. And but if the AIF is, let me just put it this way, if they're trying to raise their standard and they're like, okay, we can deal with Corpus again, we can deal with Columbus again, we can deal with Harrisburg again. These are good owners, these are good organizations that are maintaining a standard. And that's kind of how Brandon Eichert, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, the guy that owns the AIF, that's kind of how he strikes me, as he wants quality, professionalism. And I don't know what he's seeing in Beaumont right now, but I just wonder if he's just like, okay, we're not quite to the professional standard that we want to set. Other than that, yeah, I mean, maybe he mentioned a standard to them that they weren't willing to rise up to. I'm not really sure, but it does surprise me a little bit because I thought that they were pretty committed.
I agree. It is kind of surprising. You know, why announce a league that you're expanding into only to change your mind after a season? But granted, I don't think any of us knew exactly how the AIF season was going to unfold, so maybe some of that has factored into their decision. Chris, do you have any insight or any thoughts on why Beaumont would opt to explore other opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, the Beaumont ownership, they're part of their own. They have their own scouting agency, right? And obviously, like, I don't want to speculate on anything or, but when you kind of hear the same story from players about, their agents not responding to them for over a year and different things like that, kind of makes me think, are you really ready to own a football team? I mean, that's the general question I have, right? Like, I'm on the Instagram post right now, and I see one of the clients trying to get in touch with them, and the comments actually hidden by the official Instagram page, and it says, "Please give me a call, my agency," or something like that. And so this is a client that signed with the agency that has to get in touch with them via Instagram, and they're hiding his comment. So there's stuff like that where, yeah, it's kind of sketchy. I'm not gonna lie. And then the more sketchy thing from them with the fact they signed a player in March. Like, remember when they were putting out stuff like signed to the Beaumont Renegades before they even entered the league? Like, how can you sign a player in March for a season that starts in over a year? Like, that doesn't make sense, right? So are they posting signings based on verbal agreements, or, like, you know what I mean? You have to have a league contract. There's a whole procedure. That's why IFL teams have gotten in trouble in the past for not following. When free agency starts in October, that's when free agency starts. That's how every league works. So they also added Dietrich Wise to their ownership group, and if he's a legitimate partner, they'll be fine. I believe, like, if he actually steps up, Dietrich Wise would be a great partner for them. Jacoby Jones, obviously, he's kind of a figurehead at head coach, right? But it's still good to have him, as part of the band. Someone that played indoor football, wasn't really highly successful in indoor football, but still, he's a big name who was successful in the NFL, so that's what matters at the end of the day. I don't know. I'm not really surprised. There's so much more, again, that goes into owning a team than coming up with colors and a logo and a T-shirt. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it. So I wish Beaumont the best of luck. I hope they succeed. I want Dietrich Wise to succeed. I know Dietrich personally. I think he's a great guy. And I think Sam Gordon and Griff Carl, right? Like, I hope they have their stuff together to be successful long term. But they need to, if they want to enter another league, they have to make sure they have everything together before they can even think about doing that. Or otherwise, they can just join the AL too. So.
Yeah, and see, it's ironic that you point that out, because I think the AAL2 stands to gain a few teams depending on how a realignment happens this season. And I think that they could realistically raise their stock as a league depending on how everything shakes out this year, because there are a few teams that I think, like, perfect example is like the Upland Athletic team. Why not, on their perspective, why not join a league like the AAL? Because then you can put all your players that aren't signed on that team. They can go out, they can play, they can get current film, and you can have, a set schedule. And yes, it would require a lot of work to continue having players each week and stuff like that. But why not do that as an agency? And I mean, you could have multiple teams like that. Wolf 10, Dallas Falcons, that's another example. You've got Griff Carl's team. Maybe he goes to the AL too as well, and his agency has their quote unquote development travel team, the Renegades then. It could be an interesting situation. I mean, realistically, I could see a league completely built out of agencies that are forwarding a team. It's just a matter of doing it the right way. Obviously I've got my concerns about Beaumont as well. I always want to wish success to Sam Gordon and Griff Carl. They've both been great friends to this channel, but I've heard some of the whispers that you have as well. I mean, a lot of the issues that they've had as an agency that could eventually, bleed into being a team owner. And that's one concern I have with them, but I wish them success. At the end of the day, obviously one more team, one more paying team is always a good thing, especially for these players that are looking for opportunities. You touched on it a minute ago about, Columbus and Corpus Christi teasing that they will be joining the NAL. I wanted to add to that. I put up a post a couple weeks ago about a quote unquote dream merger between the AIF and the NAL, also adding Wheeling into that mix. And Harrisburg commented on it. And they said that they think that AIF and the NAL merging would be a great move for both leagues. So definitely kind of interesting to see that coming from the Harrisburg Stampede page, very publicly, posted somewhere. So I think that they see the value in a merger. I think that ownership on both sides see that value as well. And I think it's only a matter of time before it happens. And realistically, I think that would be good for the indoor football world in general. I mean, when you eliminate a league, but you aren't eliminating the teams, you eliminate some of the confusion for casual fans. So I mean, when you look at the indoor football world as I don't want to say an expert, but people who are very invested as we are, we know the differences between the NAL, the TAL, the IFL, the AFL, all these different leagues. But when you're a casual fan and you're like, oh, hey, I'm going to check out this indoor football stuff, and you realize that there's 7 different leagues that are viable options for players, it gets really confusing really fast. And that's for anybody, not necessarily just players or people who are indoor football fans or outdoor football fans or people who don't have a clue. It's for anybody, really. Even some of the players get confused by so much stuff going on. So I think that could be a good thing in both facets. And then I like what Chris said about the AIF still existing as a conference. You don't necessarily have to take that hit to your ego and, shut down the AIF completely. You can follow the UFL model. You can follow the NFL model, and you can have the AIF be a conference, have the NAL be a conference. And maybe you play under the National Arena League name because it's more of a more established. But at the same time, I think you could still have a situation where both leagues, quote unquote, exist. They don't die. They continue as one entity. So any final thoughts on the AIF before we move forward into the other leagues?
Yeah, I know we're kind of going to touch on it with the NAL, but the AIF had so many solid teams. I don't want the bad teams to foreshadow the good teams. Corpus, Amarillo, Columbus, Harrisburg, these are all top organizations. Harrisburg is having guys with NFL interest, right? For a first-year program to have guys with NFL interest is unbelievable. So, I'm excited for the future of Harrisburg and the AIF as a whole, whether they join the NAL or not.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see we're going to see another crazy offseason. Is it going to be as crazy as last offseason? I don't know, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to see where everybody ends up. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how these leagues all end up, and we ultimately will get a whole lot of news this offseason. So definitely stay tuned to that. If you're a fan of the arena football world, we will do our best to bring you all of the latest news as it breaks. We're going to play a quick commercial, and then we'll transition over to the NAL and IFL. Those two sections are going to be a little bit shorter today. There isn't a lot of news to discuss on them, so stay tuned with us. We've probably got about 15, 20 minutes left, and then we'll wrap it up for the day.
Follow your passion first. First. most fun thing in the world. You get up in the morning excited about what you're doing. And you got to be really honest with yourself about it. And you got to sit there and ask yourself, okay, what am I truly passionate about? What do I enjoy doing?
Shout out to our sponsor, D's Place. Great company. Make sure you're checking them out for all your videography and photography needs. I believe they're located in Louisiana, although they are willing to travel anywhere in the Southeast region. So make sure you hit them up if you have any needs. Graduations, weddings, football games, doesn't matter. They'll consider it all. So the NAL obviously just wrapped up their championship game. Rather big game, 1 point difference. Great game to showcase that league and really send it into hopefully a positive future. Is there anything in particular about the NAL that you guys want to discuss today? I know there isn't really a lot of news coming out right now, given that we're so close to the championship game.
Yeah, no, I want to discuss Ricky Burst for a sec. I think Ricky Burst is on demon time this offseason. I think what he's trying to do with the NAL is like crazy good. He's trying to expand it rapidly. I saw him in Wheeling, with the press conference and everything. And I find it really interesting that the NAL is kind of taking a press conference approach. You see that with the IFL when they expand, they have a press conference. And just like little things like that make it so much more professional. So I'm really happy with what Ricky Burst is doing with the NAL, and I think he's gonna try to make it a powerhouse. Because I think for him, and I might be wrong, but this is Omaha's last stop. I don't think they want to join another league after this. I think this is it, for them. Who knows what's gonna happen in the next 100 years per se, but now this is where they want to be. They want to be in the NAL. And, seeing a team like Carolina, for example, seeing Coach Negroni's going to be back, I'm so excited. But, seeing John Kane as the majority owner, and then they added Dr. Dixon the other day, they're trying to assemble, a group of Avengers to be their ownership group and kind of keep the team afloat long term. So the NAL is making some big moves. I think this is the most positive news in the NAL for a while that we've heard, and I think it's only going to go up from here. And I'm interested to see what happens with a team like Idaho. I hope Colorado stays around. But I think we're going to see there's going to be a lot of great news for the NAL, and I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like what you said about the press conference approach. I do think that brings an air of professionalism. Not surprised that is, something that the NAL has adopted since Ricky Burst has come in. I think that's a good move. Ducon, what are your thoughts about everything going on with the NAL right now? The addition of Wheeling, potential expansion that we are all talking about, all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about the NAL. I mean, they laid a pretty good foundation during, I guess, their first year since the great upheaval of last year. No one took a bigger hit in the off season last year than the NAL, and they've established themselves now as a solid foundation and have become an attractive destination to quality teams. And I like what Chris said, but I think the other thing that you're probably going to see is league meetings, I think, take place July 25th, 26th in Omaha for the National Arena League. And I think they plan on having a press conference each day to sum up what decisions were made in league meetings. And I could be wrong about that, but I think that there's some of that's going on. I know that because I talked to Commissioner Todd Walkenhorst, that one of the big goals was to get Carolina some help so they're not on an island down there, and have some closer teams for them, and to get Idaho some help so they're not on an island over there. And they're pretty confident they've got some people, and they've had tons of teams reach out to them. I suspect that you could see a 10-team NAL next season, but I wouldn't be surprised to see 12.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. I've got it pegged somewhere in that 10 to 12 range as well. Assuming everything unfolds like I expect. At this point, there's a couple franchises I have questions about. I'm not sure if they'll make it, financially in the NAL, and I think they might opt to pursue other options because of that. But at the same time, I think that the NAL is definitely looking at a brighter future than their most recent past. Obviously, Carolina was a big question coming out of this season. They've had some struggles here as of late. Obviously the financial situation with Rob Storm is something that's been discussed at length. But as you can tell here in this great press release, they discussed the Cobras ownership group, and Rob Storm's name is not mentioned in that list. So I think that is one thing that kind of removes some of the concerns about Carolina going forward. Obviously, the addition of Dr. Dixon is smart. You need to have a little bit more. You need to add more hands into the more cooks into the kitchen, for lack of a better term here, to make sure that there's enough financial backing to make sure this team is set up the way they need to be. And I know that was something that was kind of a point of contention toward the end of the season for Carolina. They're a great organization that has done everything right over their short history, and I'm very excited to see that they will be back in 2025. I know that there were some serious concerns, so much so that we're getting repeated questions on our Cobra show every week about if there would be a team. Well, now we know that is in fact going to happen for 2025. So really excited to hear the Cobras are back. Hope we can continue our partnership with them. It's been a lot of fun. Coach Negron is awesome as a person, as a coach.
Amazing.
Have a really, really high opinion of him.
Yes.
Is there anything off the top of your head other than this big announcement with the ownership group being added to in Carolina and Wheeling that you wanted to touch on in the NL?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask you guys this question. Steven Newbold, I love Steve, from Miami, but Steve, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. And, he played before, right? Like, he played in Green Bay for 2 years. And I know he's an NAL rookie technically, but I wanted to ask you, what do you guys think of him winning Rookie of the Year instead of Player of the Year?
That's a good question.
Go ahead, Sam. No, you first.
All right. I think it's a great question. Obviously, he's not a rookie, so it's hard to sit here and term him as an NAL Rookie of the Year. But at the same time, I do understand that a lot of these leagues tend to ignore each other's existence, especially when it comes to statistical records, which is too bad, because I think if we really had a national database to track all the stats, as if, like, say a player goes from the IFL to the NAL, you could look back and see, okay, he played with the Green Bay Blizzard in 2023, and in 2024 he was with Omaha, and he has 46 receptions over the past 2 years for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns or whatever. It would be cool to be able to see that, but unfortunately I don't think we'll ever see a situation where all these leagues can get over their little bit of ego that they've got in their own entities to see that. So I think this is just something we're going to have to live with as long as indoor football exists. If that player is new to a league, they're going to be considered a rookie in that league. It's the same thing with the NFL and the CFL. Technically a player could go from the NFL to the CFL and win CFL Rookie of the Year, the next season, and it would be no different. So it's just a thing where, professional entities don't tend to acknowledge each other for whatever reason. I think it's kind of dumb, but it is what it is. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point that you make, and it's a great question that you ask, Krish. The NAL had a set number of awards that they were intending to give out, a set number of names for those awards. For example, Offensive Rookie of the Year. And what it looked like to me was that Tommy Armstrong was your undisputed MVP. I'm not sure who they gave Offensive Player of the Year. I wondered if it was Guy Myers, but maybe you know more about that.
Yeah, they gave it to Jason Whitaker, and that was another one. Like, he threw, 33 touchdowns and 22 picks. So, but he balled out still.
That's right. They gave it to Jason Whitaker. Now, What it came across to me as is they wanted to acknowledge Stephen Newbold for his great play and his contributions, and that they had to have an award that basically fit the bill, I guess. They wanted to acknowledge what an offensive powerhouse he was. But I think that they were trying to acknowledge both him and Jason Whitaker. So, and you see stuff like that. For example, one thing I would like to see the NAL and other leagues do is have like a greatest contributor award. And what I mean by that is you've got Stephen Newbold who's coming in and he's returning kickoffs for touchdowns. He's catching touchdowns. He's making interceptions on defense. And then you got Rashad Flanders in Idaho, he leads the league in interceptions, right? And he's having kickoffs, returns for touchdowns, and he's playing the running back position. He's playing wide receiver. And even that last game at Colorado, he's handling kickoff and field goal duties. These types of athletes need acknowledged for their overall athletic prowess. And I really think that we need to add an award like that really acknowledges, I wouldn't say like best overall player because that's what MVP is, but greatest contributor or something like that basically says, well, you're Hassan Rogers, for example, somebody that can step in and play any position at any time and be an immediate factor for their team. I'd like to see
could not agree with you more. That would be such a great idea for all these leagues to do. I mean, you can look at any one of these indoor football leagues and you can find a guy that does that for his team. And it's a situation where they need to be acknowledged for that, because sometimes they'll have the most yardage on a team, in several different categories, but they won't be acknowledged as an award winner in any one single category because they're spread so thin. So yeah, I really think that's a great point. I know you made that point last episode. We can make that point every episode until the show, finishes or they make that award thing, because honestly, I think that's a great point. And it's something that we need to do. In the NFL, I think they've done a good job of acknowledging some of the team players, but I don't think any league really acknowledges the jacks of all trade, like you spoke about. Those guys are incredibly valuable to a team, especially in roster building when you only have 20 some guys on a team. To have a guy that can play any position on the field, all of a sudden you have a lot more depth, and that's huge for these teams when they start suffering injuries and stuff. And that's why you see, as the seasons go on, guys like these get more productive. So it's definitely something I would love to see.
Well, there's another aspect to that, Sam and Krish, and that is that it saves money as well for teams that don't have a boatload of money, that are going on the road and they're traveling far enough that they need to fly. They can look at their roster and they can say, okay, I'm going to leave these two guys home. I don't have to pay a plane ticket because I've got this guy who can fill that role on both offense, defense, and special teams that will come on the trip and be able to be very competitive against our road opponent.
100%. And it's something I really think will only continue to happen more and more in the indoor football world as things go on. I mean, like you said, financially, it makes sense. And when it financially makes sense, it makes sense on the football field as well. So, especially 100%. Indoor. So we're going to play one last commercial, and then we're going to transition over to the IFL for the wrap-up portion of this episode. And I think we got a couple things to touch on, nothing major, a couple transactions that we wanted to look at, and that's about it. So if you're still with us, make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Make sure you also subscribe to ZO Productions on YouTube and follow Arena Football Statement on Facebook as well. He's been here every episode, and as far as I'm concerned, he's the co-host of this show. So make sure you give him all the support as well. Really appreciate everything you bring to the game and the content that you create as well.
Thank you, Sam. Right back at you.
Shout out to S Time for Fitness, ran and owned, operated by Kevin S Time, a defensive back who has played indoor football for several years at this point. So let's support current players and go get you some S Time for Fitness gear for all your workout needs. Use our code Shady Sports for a discount as well. Thank you to Kevin S Time for hooking us up with that sponsorship. We really appreciate it. But obviously, this is the last league we're going to discuss today, and we only have a little bit of information to talk about today, which is perfectly okay. But there were some interesting transactions as of late in the IFL, one of which Krish brought to my attention, which I'm very excited that he did, and that is Kaleb Barker has returned to the IFL. For those of you watching that don't recognize that name, Kaleb Barker was a rookie in 2022 with the Naz Wranglers, and he led them from worst in 2021 to a championship winner in 2022 as a rookie. Won an award as a rookie and then walked away from football. Went to the XFL showcases, did not return to the IFL in 2023, and then has not returned to any sort of football league until late in the 2024 season. So I honestly did not expect to see him back. So we'll go to Krish first on this one. What do you take from this addition of Kaleb Barker so late in the season?
I want to know how a 2-10 football team convinced him to come out of retirement. Like, I wonder what they told him. Coach Gibson probably sent him sold him a whole bag of goods. Oh, we can still make the playoffs or something like that. But no, I think Jacksonville is a prime location, right? Like, they shouldn't be 2-10. Like I said this before, right? It's a prime location. They're able to get talent. People want to come there. People want to play there. There's a reason why not many players have quit the team, despite them being bad. It's because of the fans, right? So, I think Kaleb, like he mentioned last night on the podcast he was on, he was talking about, how he had a family and how he kind of wanted to step away. And like, I get that totally. And Kaleb, like, when he played with Naz, he played like an outdoor quarterback. I believe Kaleb should be in the CFL or the NFL or the UFL. He played so well. He moved the offense down the field. He was a gamer. He was a controller, and that's what you need in a quarterback. I think these next 4 games for Jacksonville, like, they're basically out of the playoff race per se, I would say. They have to win the next 4, and they have to, hope for something magical to happen. But I look in the next year, right? If the Sharks, if he plays well, like I know he can, and I think he will, these next, 4 games, if he puts together good numbers, I think they bring it back in 2025 and they make him their QB1 in their franchise. And I think that's the goal for them, honestly, to sign a big name like this so late in the season. They're building for next year. So I think Kaleb's a great addition. I think he's going to do great things. I'm happy for him. I hope to see him do well and, maybe even get a call up to the CFL. When the season's over, because he's a legit Division I quarterback. He played at Troy. His last year he threw 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Like, he ran for 11 more. So, like, he's been a baller all his life. And even in high school, he won high school MVP his junior year. So, I think I'm just excited. I think he's someone who makes the game funner to watch. And those are the type of players we need in the IFL. So,
absolutely agree. Tucson, what are your thoughts about Kaleb Barker returning?
Well, I love when Krish starts throwing out stats like that. He's just an information machine, just like, hey, he did this and he did this and did this, and it's really cool to listen to, actually. What I make of it, and in answer to the question, how does a 2-10 team pull this guy out of retirement? My first thought is that Jacksonville is a quality organization. They have a very quality broadcast. If you're trying to even make it to the next level, the UFL, CFL, or even the NFL, you want to be on a team that has a good quality broadcast that can get you some more film that basically answers the question, what kind of a player is he now? He also can be an immediate contributor. You go to a 2-10 team, you win out. You say, what's the X factor? Oh, it's the quarterback. This guy turns a team around. Okay, let's sign him. That's a factor. And like Krish said, he does well. I think they bring him back if he doesn't sign with a higher league. But he's, like Krish also said, he mentioned that he plays like an outdoor quarterback. I kind of like that. a lot of IFL teams approach this hybrid quarterback that's very, very good at just being kind of that Swiss Army knife. You know, he's good in the run game, he's good in the pass game, runs a good read option, and you've got several in the IFL that are just so good at it. But then you've got your other people like a Nate Davis that is a very good pocket passer. You know, he's not exactly mobile. You see that he's got his leg brace on. Kaleb Barker strikes me as the kind of person that's patient in the pocket, that waits till that last second, is willing to take a hit, but he waits till the last second to make sure that his receiver has a step, delivers the ball on time. He's pretty accurate. I do think that this is a great addition for Jacksonville, for the IFL, and really, like Chris said, if he does well, I think Jacksonville brings him back, and I think they could be a huge factor next year.
And, you know, I
agree.
need to add this too. It's Les Moss and Rod Windsor are the most underrated coaching staff in the IFL. I mean, Kaleb Barker, year one. Last year, what they did with Nick Watson, right? What they did with Garrett Kettle, and now what they're doing with Joshua Jones. Like, they pump out quarterbacks, and they make QBs go from average to great. And, like, Kaleb was already great, so they made him great to even more elite. And so I mean, you got to give Les Moss credit on how successful, you know, he's been.
No, 100% agree on that. And just real quick, Kaleb in 2022 played all 18 games. He threw 357 passes, completed 204. He was third in the league in passing yards, 2,273 yards, 49 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. In the run game, he was fifth overall in total yards with 812 rushing yards, 172 carries. He averaged 4.7 yards per carry and had 17 more touchdowns there. So just an unbelievable season for him. And I, like you guys said, I really think that he belongs in a bigger league. He's got all the talent as a passer. He can run the ball. He realistically is probably just as good, if not better, than 5 to 6 different quarterbacks serving that short yardage role for a CFL team right now. You know, I think he has more upside as a passer, and he's a guy who, as they're using him in that short yardage role in the CFL. So I hope this is what he needs to get where he wants to be, because I'm positive that the IFL is not the end of the road for him. So it would definitely be interesting to see where his career goes from here. Excited to see him.
I wonder why, like, guys like him, or even like Sam Casanova, like he must not have a passport or something. Because I don't understand why, you know, these guys year after year put up numbers and they don't even get like a workout, anything. It's like anything, you know. I wonder. You know, I know these scouts for these like UFL and CFL are looking towards college kids, and I understand that. But wouldn't you want someone who developed, who played pro ball? Like, isn't that something you would look towards? It doesn't make sense. So.
To a certain extent, but you may have answered your own question already. You talk about Sam Casanova and how we have heard rumors that he's making upwards of $4,000 playing arena ball for San Antonio. Would you want to go to another country to make $5,000? You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, then you're getting taxed twice, because you're getting taxed as an American citizen in Canada. So he might actually make less money going to Canada than he would if he stayed in the UFL or something like that. And actually, that's a situation where he's been in the UFL showcases. So I know that he's probably at least had conversations with UFL teams. But again, it might be a situation where if he's going to the UFL and he's going to be a third string quarterback and he's inactive, that's 1/3 of what he's making as an IFL quarterback. I mean, it's $1,500 a week as an inactive player. So, you know, maybe we eventually see him go and, you know, sign as a third quarterback to see what he can do there. But I think he's set up so well in the IFL or in arena ball that I don't know that we ever see him jump. And I think that it's going to be a similar situation with like guys like Malik Henry moving forward. I know he got that opportunity this past season, but we also know Albany's paying great. So, I mean, I could see a scenario where he comes back as Albany's quarterback 1 next year. Jake Medlock walks back into retirement, and, you know, he just stays in arena ball and sees how far he can go with it. You know, there's no reason to make that jump if you're not making a significant amount more money and getting a chance to start, especially from Castronova's perspective. He's a starter. He's an unquestioned starter no matter where he goes. And that wouldn't be the case if he went to the CFL or the UFL. So,
and even you look at us, right? We have a guy like Jimmy, right? Jimmy Robinson. And Jimmy, he belongs outdoors. Just mindset and the way he carries himself and everything. But I look at him and his brand. He has a clothing brand, and I see fans walking around with his merch. And I'm the fact that he can grow it, and that's why he's in Mass. That's part of the reason why he's in Mass. He could be back home in Jacksonville, but he's already grown his brand enough at home. Why not grow it in another state? Same thing with Matt Elam, right? Why not make your name known? Matt Elam goes out to every community event we have. So I look at it these guys have an opportunity to grow their brand and grow their businesses, outside of the field. So.
Yes. Smart.
And that's something to add in there as well. I mean, are you going to get that same exposure if you're a third string quarterback on a CFL team? No, you're not. So definitely great point there as well. A couple other transactions that I wanted to touch on real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up. But Tucson has another quarterback. Despite the fact that Malik Mitchell had a lot of success early in the year, it seems like there's some sort of scenario there with the money that I'm not sure what happened, but he was posting on Instagram about it a couple weeks ago. And then next thing we know, Tucson goes out and signs Kenyatte Allen coming over from the LFA. He was a great quarterback down there with the Mexicas. So kind of interesting to see him come in. Kenyatte is a former IFL quarterback, so no stranger to the IFL game. Should come in and play pretty well right away. And then Jeff Mack, running back from the LFA as well, joined Jacksonville. So Jacksonville is kind of loading up here towards the end of the year to really make a run, or hopefully at least, garner some positivity heading into 2025, for their fans. So interesting to see. Do either of these moves, kind of strike you as surprising? Let's go to Duke first.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, again, Jeff Mack's another one I was just editing footage of yesterday. He barely won a championship with Omaha. It does kind of surprise me that he would even have interest to immediately go somewhere else and keep playing. But I guess that, he's a fiery guy. I like it. I like his energy. He's a fiery guy, wants to play. And so I guess that part makes sense. Why Jacksonville? I don't know. Unless it's what's that?
Real quick. I said Jeff Mack. I meant Josh Mack. I apologize. Josh Mack. Not the Omaha running back. That is 100% my fault. Josh Mack,
no worries.
A running back down in LFA, the Mexican League.
Well, I'll switch to Kenyatte Allen then. This one's interesting to me. You talk about, knowing the history. Last time Kenyatte Allen was in Tucson, he was starting quarterback for the Bismarck Bucks. They were down by 6 points. They were in the red zone. They had a chance to tie it, and he rolled his ankle dropping back. And Tucson got the sack. Bismarck lost. So I find it kind of poetic that he's like, I'm going to return to Tucson and get that nasty taste out of my mouth. I think it's actually cool. I saw him in Des Moines because I had gone to a Barnstormers game, and he was playing for Bismarck at that time. And I was really surprised with how athletic he was. And he had an amazing play right at the end of the game. They just about went into overtime. He had like a 4th and 18, and that pocket collapsed on him, and he zigged and zagged getting away from these D linemen. And he's running to the right, full speed, and it looked like a DB or somebody comes closing in on him full speed to go and hit him. And last second, he heaves up this pass that was right between 2 defenders to Raheem Harvey for a touchdown that tied the game. And so there were things like that where I was like, wow, you get this guy just a little bit more experience in this game, and he could be a real factor. So I like this signing for Tucson. I was kind of sad that whatever happened with Malik Mitchell happened, because I thought he was just an all-star, an absolute all-star. But Kenyatte Allen showed some great things last time he was in the IFL.
Agreed. And yeah, obviously you never want to see these situations unfold with players, especially young, promising guys. Mitchell's a rookie, so that might spell the end of his IFL career. You get a bad taste in your mouth at one point, and then you might never return. So we'll see. But
I hope
Chris,
he
what are your thoughts on
returns.
this one?
I mean, he's a stud. I mean, he carried that offense. He kept them in games, and like Coach Back, he's trying everything. And I feel really bad for Coach Back and Coach Kaiser and watching them go downhill the way they are. I like I said, I think it's about the players buying in, right, to Coach Back and his culture. They made over, the last time I checked, I think 84 player transactions. So 84 different guys have been on that roster. So when you keep moving guys, it's just you can't build chemistry, you can't build consistency, but that's Coach Back, right? Coach Back is not used to losing. So he kind of hits the panic button too quickly, and it's like, oh man, like I gotta move this guy, I gotta move that guy. And in terms of Josh Mack from the LFA, coming to Jacksonville, Josh Mack is from the Florida area, I believe, and he's also teammates with wide receiver DJ Stubbs at Liberty University. Josh Mack was the starting running back at Liberty, so it's kind of cool to see him reunite with his college teammate on Jacksonville. I think it's really impressive to see. Josh Mack has been trying to get in the IFL for a while. He, on a couple of our posts on Instagram, trying to say like, sign me. This was like a year ago. So, it's interesting to see him wanting to come over to the IFL. I think, obviously we're set at running back with Jimmy, but I feel, interesting because I'm interested to see how does Kenyatte Allen dissect defenses now coming from outdoor football. He came with the LFA, and I mean, I don't think the DBs in the LFA are that great, to be honest. I'm just being frank. I don't see really many good DBs in the LFA. I see guys getting cooked, guys wide open down the field, 15 yards, no one behind them. But now Kenyatte Allen's coming back. Is he going to do better than he did last time? Last time, Kenyatte Allen, I think, only turned over the ball once. He had like 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, I think, with Bismarck. He didn't turn over the ball very much. He's a very turnover-free quarterback. The reason why I know that is because when he signed with Carolina in the offseason, I was legitimately excited to see him compete for that starting job because he's so talented. He played in the ELF. He was a starter. Yep. I think he set the ELF record for passing yards in 581 total yards, 8 touchdowns. So 4 passing, 4 rushing. But it's just exciting to watch guys like that come from overseas back indoors and to see, we have this question about talent a lot. We talk a lot about a lot of people think the European talent is better than the IFL talent, and the LFA talent is better than the IFL. And I'm on the IFL side. I think the IFL has better talent, to be honest, than both those leagues do. But it's all about perspective and kind of just what situation you're in, per se.
Well put.
I think a lot of these leagues, have similar talent. I think it's just a matter of decision making by the players who are in those positions. I'm actually surprised to hear that Josh Mack was trying to get into the IFL previously because I always felt that he was benefiting himself in getting an opportunity outdoors by playing in the LFA. But interesting to see him in the IFL. Maybe that's what he needed to get on a radar. But we'll see. A lot of jumping around from leagues to leagues lately, specifically with the leagues that are finishing up. You're seeing these guys sign other contracts and go to other leagues to, continue their careers and continue playing the season. So it's always interesting to see how that works as the season goes on. And these were 2 guys that kind of caught my attention because we're covering the LFA as well. So it was interesting to see them make the jump. But any final thoughts before we get out of here for the day? Let's go to Ducon first.
Nope, I've enjoyed it. Thank you, guys. Really enjoy visiting with you.
Absolutely. Always fun. Plenty to talk about this week. Krish, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I always enjoy the show on Saturday mornings. Just tune in Monday night, right? We have a big surprise coming for Quad Cities. I think we're ready to go. We're locked and loaded. We got a new DB coach, Fred Griggs, coming up from Duke City. So having his experience, I'm excited for what a DB core is going to look like going forward. And I feel like we found our mix with Cyrus, CJ, and Matt Elam. So I'm just excited for that. And then, just Omar, if you're watching from Quad Cities, I'm going to be hitting you up after we blow you out on Monday about players. So just be ready to sign some new guys come, Tuesday or Wednesday. So be ready for my message. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'll see you guys next week.
That was awesome. And then next week, tune in back with us. We'll be talking about AFL playoffs.
What's that? What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
That's right. AFL playoffs start next week, and we're coming up on the IFL playoffs real soon. So we're going to have lots to talk about next week and every other week after that for at least probably another month. Stick with us and hit that like button, comment, subscribe. And again, subscribe to ZO Productions. Make sure you're following Arena Football Statement on Facebook. And then, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. We appreciate all your support, and we appreciate everybody who's an indoor football fan and helping to do their part to grow these leagues and keep them around, because as you can tell, we love them.